it goes. Aquí vamos, okay. Problemas técnicos, technical problems, perdón. Muy bien. Y muy buenos días, buenos días. Just a reminder, quick reminder, because many of you will be, a lot of people always tell me they take more than one class from Scottsdale. Registration for summer is on now. It started Monday. So
Ooh, I gotta do that.
if you have one of those things where like you must have a tennis session at time X and those things fill up, make sure you're on your, it doesn't affect me that way, but it affects a lot of the in-person classes that way. So if you've got to sign up your grandkids for swimming and by God, you need a 10 o'clock time, hop to it. Okay. A ver, bueno. Vamos a practicar con leer un poquito. We're going to read just a little bit more, a little bit of shadowing, un poquito, a little bit of that. I did have a request, and I hope this is okay. I had a request to actually go through the inviting to your house video. Is that okay to do a walkthrough on that? Because she does go faster, and there were some folks who said, that was a little speedy for me, and I kind of missed some of the nuances of what was going on with that. So we'll do that second. And then we're going to do a little review with the very confusing lo, la, los, las versus le and les. And we're going to have some photo prompts to use to insert those ideas. So one of the things we wanted to do with that inviting somebody to your house video was, she was kind of emphasizing the command aspect, but actually what is plugged into that a lot was there were a lot of object, that means receiving action, object pronouns. So we want to notice where those are used and how they are used and why they are what they are, what kind of chunks to get used to, all that sort of thing. Hopefully we get enough time for our little love language thing. Wasn't it a fun language? Languages of love, lenguajes del amor. Oh, okay. Bien. So kind of a full list. So we're going to start right in. We're going to do just a little bit of shadowing. Bear with me while I make sure I make my text big enough. And we want to let, I don't know, we're only going to devote maybe 10, 15 minutes to this. So it's going to be quick, and it's going to be a shadowing where I read a sentence and I'm going to break it into manageable chunks. And I want you to, if you're the person taking a turn, repeat right after me the phrase that I say. So we're looking at fluid reading, at getting all those vowels right. Remember, that's 75% of the game is getting those vowels right. And whatever little issues you personally have, like if you're one of those folks who tends to want to say shun instead of sion, you miss the J sound, you miss the G sound, you miss things like that. Kind of be aware of those. So, okay. Pueden ver la pantalla. Can you see the screen? See? Bien. Okay. So I'm going to break it into manageable chunks. And again, this is that electronic wallet, La Cartera, that article. So we're still borrowing from that for some of this shadowing. Hay un voluntario. Anybody wants to volunteer doing some reading to start off? Bien, okay.
I'm fine.
Marcos, magnífico.
I'm
Okay.
gonna get my turn out of the way.
Okay. Vale, perfecto. Okay. Por eso es importante
Por eso es importante
que los usuarios de iPhone,
que los usuarios de iPhone,
good job on usuarios, activen una nueva función de seguridad
activen una nueva función de seguridad
llamada protección del dispositivo en caso de robo.
llamada protección del dispositivo en caso de robo.
See, and the only word that was tough in there was this one, dispositivo.
Dispositivo. Can I make a
Dispositivo,
quick
mejor.
comment? When you said, usuarios
Usuario.
for the baseball fans in class. So the Diamondbacks traded for a guy named their new third baseman. And he's got, in English, it looks easy enough, but his first name in Spanish is Eugenio.
Eugenio.
Eugenio Suarez is his
Eugenio
name.
Suarez.
And, it looks tempting to say Eugenio, right?
Yeah.
And actually, he goes by the nickname Gino now. But I actually, in spring training, I was watching him take batting practice, and when he finished, I was sitting like literally next to him, and I asked him, "Could you kind of tell me how do you really pronounce your first name?" And that's where I got the Eugenio. Wow.
Eugenio. I'm going to put this in caps. We're going to put this right up here. No, momentito.
And if you go to a game and listen to the public address announcer, he does it very well. I mean, you can see that it's like all those syllables.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure people who do announcing for baseball have to practice these things now. And maybe even with Japanese names, who knows? Yeah, depende del equipo, depende de los jugadores, los beisbolistas que juegan en el equipo. This is one of those odd, and usuario has, anytime we've got those sounds, they do kind of produce or create a challenge for English speakers. But this eu one is one that is a really tough one. Eu, eu, eu. Yeah. And there are kind of a limited number of words that have eu in them, right? Neutro, neutral, neutro, euro, euro, Europa, Europe, Eugenio. And that eu is kind of a tough one for English speakers to kind of nail that, because it's not a real, it's kind of almost like a W sound in English, almost, right? Eugenio, Eugene. Yeah. Ok. Gracias, Marcos. Y aquí una palabra útil. Out of all these words, here is our super useful, keep it in your back pocket word, dispositivo. Dispositivo es gadget, device. You might hear a word for device, anything, any item that is electronic. So somebody may refer to el celular, the cell phone, as un dispositivo, a device, because it's something you hold in your hand that's small and it's electronic. That's what a dispositivo is. Yeah. Somebody, if they've got a little device to attach to their bike to tell them how many miles they've gone, es un dispositivo. This is a device. So, dispositivo is a general word that we use in Spanish when we talk about some kind of an electronic gadget. So, dispositivo is a useful word to know for your active vocabulary. Yeah, because dispositivo is more general than celular, but it might refer to a lot of our handheld gadgets that we use. Bien, sí. Por ejemplo, sí, el reloj inteligente, your smartwatch, es un dispositivo. So dispositivo is a big category, but if you want to say a thingamabob that's an electric thingamabob, dispositivo is a good word to know. And another word,
the real scientific word here is gizmo.
gizmo. Sí, gizmo. I don't see the web que se llama Gizmo. Isn't there like there's a Gizmo website or something? Dispositivo. Here's another word you may hear as a general reference word to electronic gadgets or devices, aparato. So you may hear people use aparato. You may hear people use dispositivo. So why do they have two words? Because we have gadget, device, gizmo. Yeah, we have different words for these things in English too, but a general word that talks about any device is dispositivo or maybe aparato. Depende, it kind of depends on who's talking, which one they feel like using. So, okay. Perdón. Oh, Marcos, te interrumpí. I interrupted you. Un poquito más. Protección del dispositivo en caso de robo. Device protection, robbery, device protection, ¿sí? Que impide
Que impide
el acceso
el acceso
con clave a datos
con clave a datos
como contraseñas
como contraseñas
y tarjetas de crédito
y tarjetas de crédito
guardadas.
guardadas.
And that guardadas means kept, ¿sí? Guardadas cuando el dispositivo
Cuando el dispositivo
está en una ubicación desconocida.
está en una ubicación desconocida.
Sí, desconocida, unknown. And that this is sometimes in English we use dis, like disappear or disconnect. And that this is like the English this, but you know, we would say unknown. So this is like dis or unknown. See? Ubicación. Here's your other good word to put in active vocabulary. Ubicación. Ubicación is location. And this is really the preferred word to use to say location. And you would think that locación would be, you know, like a more logical cognate, but ubicación is the word that is used. See, ubicación, location, unknown location. Okay, vale. Gracias, Marcos. Okay, ¿quién? Otro voluntario para un poquito de shadowing. Another volunteer for some shadowing? Una frase? Trish? Okay, magnífico, Trish. Y, momentito. Y los usuarios de Android
Y los usuarios de Android
deberían conocer
deberían conocer
los pasos para bloquear
los pasos para bloquear
y purgar los datos
y purgar los datos
del dispositivo
del dispositivo
en caso de robo.
en caso de robo.
¿Sí? En caso de robo, in case of theft. Yeah, the word for theft, like robbery, will be robo. Robo is the noun, robar es el verbo, ¿sí? Bien. So here they were talking about iPhone, things you activate to, you know, in case of your phone getting robbed. And here they were talking about Android, right? And this deberían conocer, should be familiar with. Here, los pasos is steps. Pasos is a good word to have in your active vocabulary too. Pasos looks like pass, and it can mean a pass. Pasar is to pass, but remember, pasar is used for a lot of things beyond pass. Pasar is used to say, come on in, when you indicate to somebody to walk into your house, like entrar. Pasos also means steps, and here it means steps. So Android people should know steps to block and purge data. ¿ya? Bien, bueno. Buen trabajo. Hiciste bien, Trish. You did well. Vale. Otro voluntario, another volunteer. Alguien más para leer un poquito. Jen, let's take you next. Además, no todos los negocios
Además, no todos los negocios
aceptan pagos móviles.
aceptan pagos móviles.
And Jen, I like that I heard you say aceptan, not accept. Yeah. Our tendency as English speakers is to want to say that aceptar, but it's aceptar. Bien hecho, Jen. Jen, let me give you another sentence because that one was too short. Jillian Gillespie, de 27 años,
Gillian Gillespie, de 27 años,
en Chicago,
en Chicago,
sí, contó que empezó a usar Apple Pay
contó que empezó a usar Apple Pay
luego de perder su billetera
luego de perder su billetera
hace más de un año.
hace más de un año.
That hace más, hiciste bien. Gracias, Jen. That hace más de un año is a great chunk. With hace más de un año, we've got to look at the verb connected to it. And the verb connected to it is this, empezó. So I'm going to highlight that whole thing. So Jillian, a 27-year-old, told how she started to use Apple Pay after losing her wallet more than a year ago. Hace más de un año here means ago because it's connected to a preterite verb, empezó. Yeah. If it's connected to a present tense verb, like so instead of empezó, empieza, it means they've started to use this and they're still doing it, right? If it's connected to a preterite verb like empezó, then it hace with a duration of time takes on the ago idea, right? There is no separate word meaning ago. You have to have a chain of words being hace and then a period of time connected to preterite. So a year ago, she started to use this. Yeah. Eso es. Okay. Gracias, Jen. Okay. ¿Quién? Who? Nora, bien. ¿Esto le funciona bien? Oh, and you're on mute. Perdón.
Good, because I messed that up.
It's fine. ¿Esto le funciona bien?
Esto le funciona bien.
See, and there you wanna get that sh out. Funciona.
Funciona. Okay.
Funciona.
Funciona. Okay.
Funciona. It's really hard for English speakers to get the
Bien.
function out. Funciona. Le funciona bien. En los restaurantes
En los restaurantes,
en los que pagas en el mostrador,
en los que pagas en el mostrador,
pero en los restaurantes
pero en los restaurantes,
en los que te sientas,
en los que te sientas,
el mesero trae la cuenta
el mesero trae la cuenta
y espera que insertes tu tarjeta
y espera que insertes tu tarjeta
en un terminal.
en un terminal.
Por lo general,
Por lo general,
depende de que paguen sus amigos.
depende de que paguen sus amigos. How do you say that one again? Paguen?
Paguen. Paguen.
The GU is just a G.
GU. Let's take a
Paguen.
really quick look at GU versus GA. Yeah.
Okay.
We had a word guardadas.
Yes.
Guardadas. And GUA, we pronounce all of those sounds. Gua.
Gua.
Guar. Yeah. Guar. I'm going to separate that into syllables. Guardadas. 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 Gua. G-U-A is always gua. We have to pronounce everything. Yeah. In English, if you have the word guard, yeah, we don't really pronounce a U in the word guard, right? But in Spanish, this G-U-A will always be, every sound is pronounced. Guardadas, G-U-A, it all gets pronounced. But now let's take a look at this word here. Paguen, paguen, G-U-E, the U serves a certain function. The U goes silent. This is one of the odd situations where U goes silent. The U has a job. It's kind of a placeholder. Its job is to sit there and to tell you, aha, GE would be ge. Yeah,
Oh,
ge. And we don't want this to sound like ge. We want it to sound like g, ge. To get from ge to ge, we need to make the U silent, and this is a placeholder. It's a silent U. It sits there just to make the G go to a hard G sound. And it does that because the infinitive it comes from is pagar. And in Spanish, always, when we conjugate verbs into different moods and to different tenses, we always want to preserve whatever sound is in the original infinitive as a general rule. It's just one of those things of, if the verb is pagar, to pay, you want it to sound in all of its formations somehow like that pagar. You want that g always to come out like a g. Well, if I were to put that in subjunctive, it would no longer have the g sound. If I make it subjunctive by switching to the opposite vowel, yeah, ignore that pagan thing. Sorry about that. If I just switch the vowel, now, wait a minute, I got a problem because G and C in Spanish change sounds, right? C, E, and G, E change the sounds of the C, changes the sound of the G. So wait, how do I get back? I don't want it to sound like pagen. Yeah, I want it to sound like pagen. Well, the way to do that in Spanish is to make a spelling change when you write it out. This doesn't affect your speaking, you know, I mean, when you speak it, yeah, you know, it's supposed to sound like pagar. But when it's written, it's got to sound like pagar by doing this, inserting that silent U. And that silent U means we're shoving that G back into hard G sound. So that's why that happens. But we don't pronounce that U. G-U-E is going to just, the U is supposed to be ignored, and it's just there to have the G go back to a hard G sound. That's why. Okay?
and
Game?
it's interesting to me that you said that was subjunctive, because to me, I'm just reading it and I realize they're saying your friends are paying, but I didn't recognize it. Oh, that's the wrong vowel.
Okay.
Until you said it.
Yeah. See,
And so thank
that.
you for that out.
Okay, so let's take a look. This was a really long and complicated and full of clauses kind of sentence. So let's look at what this means. This works well. What were they talking about? They're talking about using Apple Pay at restaurants. This works well in restaurants. And we would say where you pay at the counter. We would say where you pay, but they say restaurants in which you pay at the counter. In which. En los que. In the ones that. Okay. Bien. But in restaurants where you sit down, or we might say in sit-down restaurants. Yeah, there are different ways you might express that in English. In restaurants where you sit down, the waiter brings the bill and waits for you to insert your card in a terminal. And he waits that you put that card in. Yeah. He's waiting for somebody else to do something, and that's why it's inserte, see? Or might be expressed as introduja, see? He waits for you to insert your card in a terminal, yeah? So if you're in that kind of restaurant, a sit-down restaurant where they bring the payment thing to you, not you're up at the counter, generally she depends on her friends paying, and that's why that's subjunctive. Just like he waits that you, somebody else, insert the card, she depends that her friends pay. So that's why she's saying the little iPhone app doesn't always work in that setting. That's what that's about. Okay. En esos casos, ella le suele transferir a sus amigos su parte por Venmo. In those cases, she usually, and that suele is the usually, she usually transfers the money, her part of the bill, yeah, her portion, her pay of the bill through Venmo. For those of you who don't do this, my daughter and all of her friends, and if you have a 20-something in your household, this is what they do. One person pays the bill and everybody else at the table takes their portion and they send a Venmo or a Zella payment to the other people. And that whole thing we used to do of, oh, shoot, I haven't got a 10. Who's got a 10? Right? You need a 10 and all you got is a 20. Those days are gone for young people. They don't give up about that. They don't care. They just send a Venmo. Oh, my part was 10.50. I'll send you a Venmo. Yeah. So that's if you're unfamiliar with that world, that's what young people do now. They think we're old, and why do you do that? Why are you fussing with money, mother?
Meredith,
Sí.
una pregunta. ¿Es incertez, es subjuntivo también?
Sí, sí.
Sí, y paguen, los dos son subjuntivos.
Sí, sí, sí. Because
Okay.
one person is hoping that somebody else does something, and
okay.
that other activity has not yet happened. And think about that for a minute. When we get to the walking in the door, greeting somebody you've invited to come into your house, and we use commands. Commands are kind of in the same imperativo, the imperative mood, which is commands, and subjuntivo, subjunctive mood, are considered separate moods, but they're really formed the same way. They use the opposite vowel thing in many, many cases. And that's because when you tell somebody to do something, or you hope that somebody does something, that other person, in fact, isn't doing it at that exact same minute, right? You tell somebody, sit down, they're standing, or they're walking in, and you say, sit down. Well, the fact is, they're not seated yet. You want them to sit down. They may look at you and say, nope, I can only stay a minute. I'm not sitting down, right? They may sit down 5 minutes later. They may sit down right away, but the fact is they're not seated right now. So subjunctive and imperative both really mean that that action isn't really happening right now as we speak. So it goes into the otherworldly, not a fact mood. That's what it does. Okay. Okay. Voluntario, volunteer. Bueno, Mariana, de los tres restaurantes que visité,
De los 3 restaurantes que visité,
solo uno me facilitó un lector
solo me facilitó un lector
para que usara mi celular para pagar.
para que usara mi celular para pegar.
Bien. Los otros me pidieron
Los otros me pidieron
una tarjeta de crédito,
una tarjeta de crédito,
por lo que mi esposo tuvo que pagar.
por lo que mi esposo tuvo que pagar.
Okay, bien. Of the 3 restaurants that I visited, only one. What do you think that facilitar means? Only one facilitated to me. Well, you would never say that, but that's what it means. Only one allowed me to use. Only one made available to me, a reader, that I could use my cell phone to pay. The others asked me for a credit card, for which my husband had to pay. Okay. So, tarjetas de seguro y otros documentos. Insurance cards and other documents. So they talked about credit cards, paying for stuff, and now we're talking about a different world, a world of insurance cards. So some sort of an identification card, right? Not quite like ID, like license, but other identification for services to prove you're a member of something, right? Okay. Alguien, ¿quién quiere leer aquí? ¿Quién quiere leer? Bueno, Kathleen, muchos lugares ahora aceptan.
Muchos lugares ahora aceptan
Mejor, better, sí, aceptan las fotos digitales
las fotos digitales
o las imágenes escaneadas
o las imágenes escaneadas
de documentos importantes,
de documentos importantes,
como las tarjetas de seguro médico
como las tarjetas de seguro médico
y de auto,
y de auto,
como sustitutos.
como
Como sustitutos, perdón, como sustitutos
como sustitutos
del documento físico.
del documento físico.
Sí, del documento físico, documento. Documento is a great word to know for your hip pocket. It is a cognate, but we tend to want to, as English speakers say, documento. So we want to make sure we pronounce it as documento, 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 físico. Bien, sí. Many places now accept digital photo or scanned images of important documents like insurance cards, medical insurance cards, right? Seguro médico, medical insurance cards, and car insurance cards, sí, y de auto, sí. And notice where you may say auto insurance or medical insurance, it has to be seguro médico y de auto, de seguro médico y de auto. As substitutes for physical document. Okay, ¿quién quiere leer? ¿Alguien? Anybody else want to do some reading? Carrie, bien, bueno, sí. Algunas aseguradoras, wow. Algunas aseguradoras,
Oh, algunos aseguradoras,
insurers, that was a hard word even for me, incluidas State Farm, Aetna y Anthem,
incluidas State Farm, Aetna y Anthem,
proporcionan tarjetas digitales
proporcionan tarjetas digitales
a través de sus aplicaciones.
a través de sus aplicaciones
Que se pueden agregar
que se pueden agregar
a tu billetera móvil.
a tu billetera móvil.
Bien, so some insurers, aseguradoras, insurers, which is a hard word in English, insurers. Some insurers, and then they name the companies, give out digital cards. A través de means through. Okay. Through their apps. Through their apps. And here's another use of that agregar, which is add. It's just there are synonyms for agregar. It can be añadir, to add also, but agregar is one of the add words. Okay. Vale, okay. Alguien más? Anybody that want to read a little bit more? Un poquito más. Bueno, Lori, sin embargo, no todas las tarjetas de seguros
No todas las tarjetas de seguros
funcionan así.
funcionan así.
Y a veces
Y a veces
es complicado encontrar
es complicado encontrar
esas tarjetas al instante.
esas tarjetas al instante.
Bien, muy bien. Okay. Nevertheless, not all insurance cards work like that. Funcionan así, work like that. Así is, no one's going to say work thusly. Yeah, but así is like thus or like that, right? We need two words in English, but just así works in Spanish. That's what is used. Funcionan así, work like that. And sometimes it's complicated to find those cards instantly. Okay, we're going to stop there for now since we're at the end of a paragraph. Bien, sí? Fantástico. Vale, adelante. As promised, we're going to do a quick walkthrough as quickly as we can. María, ella es colombiana. Es colombiana. We're going to seg to a little walkthrough of our video of a little role play of somebody who invited a friend over and the invitee, the guest who comes in, the guest who comes over, and terms you may hear typically in a conversation like that when you invite somebody over or when you're a guest and somebody has invited you over. And her idea was to use some imperative in here, but I want you to notice how she uses pronouns and object pronouns, meaning pronouns that refer to the person who receives the action. So notice how sometimes they're in front of a verb and sometimes they're tagged onto the end of words. So notice how there are going to be different positions sometimes. And sometimes more than one position for a pronoun is permissible. Sometimes only one position is permissible. And when we say pronouns, object pronouns are going to be either indirect, metenos, le, or les, those are indirect, or direct, meaning also metenos. But instead of le or les, direct objects are lo, la, have to go into feminine and masculine, los, las, masculine and feminine, but plural, okay? Bien, and I'll do a little quick narration as we go through. If somebody invites you to eat dinner at their house.
Marilyn, we're
Spanish.
not getting her audio.
Oh, no audio. Okay, momento. When I switch from static screen to, lo veo, I see it. Okay, mejor. Let me back up.
Si te invitaran hoy a cenar a la casa de un amigo hispanohablante.
If a Spanish-speaking friend were to invite you, if they were to invite you to eat at their house.
¿Tú sabes qué expresiones en español puedes usar para mostrar
Would you know which expressions you could use
tu buena educación?
to show courtesy? Buena educación. It's two words. Buena educación. Looks like good education, and it could, but what it generally means in normal chit chat, buena educación is courtesy, politeness. And there is also another related term very much connected, but a different set of words.
Mostrar que tienes buenos modales.
Para mostrar que tienes buenos modales, to show that you have good manners. Buenos modales is good manners. Buena educación, polite or courteous. Okay, bien.
Y garantizar que no seas grosero, pues
And guarantee that you're not rude. Grosero looks like gross, but I guess it could mean gross behavior if it were truly gross. We will not demonstrate that, but you know what that is. Grosero generally means something that is rude or vulgar or, bad manners. Yeah.
en esta clase de español con María vas a aprender algunas expresiones de cortesía que usan tanto los anfitriones como los invitados.
And we're going to use some expressions that hosts use as much as guests. Hosts, anfitriones, guests, invitados. Invitados, invited ones, guests.
En español y además vamos a tener un componente gramatical bien interesante
And
y es
the-
que vamos a practicar
The grammatical component is going to
el
be
uso del imperativo.
imperativo, but the grammatical component we're really looking at is more those little
Un
pronouns.
modo verbal del español.
Even though she
Generalmente
wants you to think about commands.
escuchamos que el imperativo es el modo verbal que se usa para dar órdenes.
Yeah, imperative is used to give orders, and it does. EC, and it does.
Y sí, pero vas a ver que aquí también lo usamos para hacer invitaciones y para
We also use commands to, when we talk in terms of anything revolving around
dar
invitations.
consejos y también como
advice,
para sugerir. Quiero avisarles que
suggestions.
la clase de español
Para sugerir, quiero avisarles. I want to let you guys know. I want to advise you. I want to warn
de
you.
hoy tiene unos apuntes que ustedes pueden descargar en este
And this has
link
notes you can
dentro del sitio
download.
web de españolconmaria.com. Vamos ahora a ver la conversación.
And the conversation actually starts by text, which that happens because just like we text, they text. Hi, Maria. Please give me your direcciones, address. Yeah. Dirección, address, dirección de tu casa, your home address. And notice here with a command that's a yes, go do it command, we don't get a choice. We have to attach the pronoun, the object pronoun, give me. For a command, it has to be attached to the end. That's like what we do in English. Give me, even though we don't smash those together into one word. They do smash it into one word in Spanish. But the order, is the same as it would be in English, even though we don't attach the word in English. Give me, dame, give me. And I'll go there. Ya te la doy. Ya te la doy. Te is not talking about who's doing the sending. Doy is I give. I'll give it to you. What's the it?
Dirección.
Dirección. The it is the la word. And it has to be a la word because it's the thing you're giving, right? Ya te la doy. So we want to focus not so much on the commands, but on these little pronouns. And we've got two pronouns in the response. Te la doy. We already know we're talking about dirección. So who wants to type in dirección again? No, you want to type in the shorty word to stand in for dirección, which is la. What's the thing you're giving? Address. That becomes the la word. But who's getting the dirección?
You.
You are. So we've got a you word, right? Te la doy. To you, it I give. Now, for some of you, it may be helpful because this is word order wise, just bonkers, not like English. Yeah. I'll give it, the thing, to you, the person, But in Spanish, literally the way they think is, to you, it, I'll give. To you, it, I'll give. When we have not a command, dame, give me, but I'm going to do this for you, it's just a statement of fact, right? That means we're using a conjugated regular indicative verb, right? A present tense verb. Doy. I don't really get a choice with this. If I have only one verb, and that's all I got is doy, and it's just a plain old present tense verb, the two object pronouns receiving the action have to be in front of that verb. Te la doy. Te la doy. To you it I give. To get used to that word order, if that word order feels just too weird for you as an English speaker, you have to get used to actually making your brain think about te la, the thing, doy. Te la doy. Mentally, that is the word order they think in. To you, it I give. To you, it I give. If I was giving it to a guy, to him, it I'll give. Right? If I was giving it to a bunch of my gal friends, to them, it I'll give. Okay? The word order is different. If it's a plain sentence, only one verb, present tense, it's got to be in front. And then we've got, she switches to just one pronoun. Te mando la ubicación también. I'll send you the location too. Te mando, to you I'll send. Okay. Diez minutos después.
Hola Ramiro, ¿cómo está?
Buenas, para informarle que Mónica...
Es para informarle. This is to inform you. And he's the guy at the reception desk. She's got somebody who buzzes in the guests to each apartment. Doorman. Does he talk to her on a tú basis? He's not. He's using formal you. That's why it's informarle. Es para informarle. This is to let you know. Let you know. But he uses informarle, inform you, that Monica's here.
Está en portería.
Está en la portería. Oh, you don't know what a portería is. You do know the word puerta. Portería is built on that idea of what a puerta is. So where do you think Maria is if he says she's está en la portería? She's in the what?
Lobby.
She's in a lobby.
Foyer.
Mm-hmm.
A foyer. Yeah, it might be a foyer. It might be a reception desk. It might be a lobby. Portería is whatever entry door is not at her apartment door, but entry lobby. So portería, even without looking that up, you can kind of guess it's about an entryway. Well, it's a lobby because she's in an apartment.
Perfecto, Ramiro, que siga. Muchas gracias.
Que siga. Mira, que siga. Go right ahead. Yeah. Seguir is to follow, to continue, and to keep going. Siga. Go ahead. Let her up.
Moni, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenida.
Welcome.
Gracias por invitarme.
Thanks for inviting me. And look where the me went. It's attached. We don't even have a conjugated verb. Thanks for inviting me. Gracias por invitarme. And because we've got invitar, por next, por is a preposition. A verb attached to that is an infinitive. So it's por invitar. Gracias por invitar. Thanks for inviting. And if I want to say inviting me, because I've got an infinitive and it's not conjugated, I slap on the me to the end of it. Gracias por invitarme. Thanks for inviting me.
Mira, te traje esto.
Look, I brought you this. Te traje. Traje is a past. I brought you. I brought you. Esto. I brought you this. I brought this for you, right? I did not carry you into the door. Te is an indirect here, but we never have to think about me, te, and nos being direct or indirect because it's me, te, nos if it's indirect, it's me, te, nos if it's direct. So that's the easy peasy one, right? Te traje esto, I brought you this. To you, I brought. Yeah, to you, I brought.
Ay, están divinas,
They're
pero no era
lovely.
necesario,
Oh, it was not necessary.
no te hubieras molestado.
You should not have bothered. No hubieras molestado. She goes into this big old, very polite subjunctive thing. No hubieras molestado. You should not have bothered yourself over this.
Ni más faltaba.
Ni más faltaba. Faltar means to lack, huh? And faltaba is a past. It was no problem. Nora.
You told us just a minute ago that gracias por invitarme, you needed to use an infinitive there because of the por. But then in the next sentence where she said para no, it wasn't necessary for you to do that. Para no era, is it because it's in past that it doesn't use an infinitive there?
Oh, it was not necessary. She needs to use a was idea.
Okay.
So she takes ser and uses it as imperfecto. Oh, that wasn't necessary.
And the infinitive wouldn't be the right kind of thing there.
Because you wouldn't say not to be necessary.
Okay. I was thinking of necessary as being the verb, but no, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
See.
No era
Continue.
necesario, no te hubieras molestado.
You shouldn't have bothered
Ni
yourself.
más faltaba.
Ni más faltaba. Ah, no problem. This is a chunk phrase. Ni always is a negative idea. Ni más faltaba. Oh, it was no bother. It's just a chunk. Those words just, it was no sweat. It was no sweat. It was no problem. It was no trouble. Ni más faltaba.
Además,
Sí.
¿Qué es la conjugación de hubieras?
Hubieras. Hubieras molestado. Molestarle is to bother oneself. Hubieras comes from haber, H-A-B-E-R. Gah, what a weird word that. Hubieras is what they call a past subjunctive. So you shouldn't have bothered.
¿Y por qué es subjuntivo?
Because it's being super polite.
Oh,
That past subjunctive is just a super polite way of expressing. You should not have bothered.
es molestado. Ni más faltaba. Además,
No
¿cómo iba a
bother.
llegar con las manos vacías?
¿Cómo iba? Wait, there's a little important blurb. ¿Cómo iba a llegar con las manos vacías? The word she did not say here was yo, but yo is implied. ¿Cómo iba a llegar con las manos vacías? How was I going to arrive with my hands empty? Wow, that sounds, yeah, literally that's what that means. But how could I have come empty-handed? That's what we would say. Or we would say, I couldn't come empty-handed. I couldn't come with nothing. This is another kind of chunk phrase. Las manos vacías means empty hands. And the polite thing, the thing she's emphasizing here is that when you're invited for a dinner somewhere, you come with some little thank you token. Her little token was a plant. It could be a bottle of wine. It could be a box of chocolates. Yeah. I knew somebody who went over to meet his girlfriend's grandma for the first time, said, "Ooh, you better buy her like a little bottle of perfume or something. You don't come with las manos vacías. You don't come as an invitee. You don't come with empty hands." So some small token, yeah, of your appreciation for the dinner invitation. And this is a formal dinner invitation. It's not just you stop by to say hello. This is where somebody is serving you, right? So that's why the gift here was a plant in this case. How could I have come empty-handed? ¿Cómo iba a llegar?
Yes. En los países hispanoamericanos es de buena educación que llevemos algo cuando nos invitan a una casa.
Oh yeah, you should take something. Taking something. Llevar algo es de buena educación. Taking something is polite. Taking something is courteous. Bringing something.
Puede ser un regalo, sobre todo si
Can
es
be a
la
gift.
primera vez que vamos a la casa.
Especially if it's first time.
O si es una casa nueva de alguien y nos invita a conocerla, un regalo para la casa. Si nos
And if it's like a new house, like a housewarming situation, especially you want something for the house.
invitaron a una cena,
If
podemos
they invited us to a dinner,
llevar algo para compartir,
we can bring something to share with everybody,
como un vino o
like a
tal
wine,
vez como algo que sirva de entraditas. Y
or something that's like an appetizer, right? You're not going to bring the main part of the meal, obviously. Entraditas just means an opener. Entrar is to come in. So not like an entree, but an appetizer. Entraditas.
Marilyn,
Lori.
is that sirva, is that subjunctive?
It is subjunctive. Algo que sirva de entraditas. Something that might pass for an hors d'oeuvre. Something that might be served as an hors d'oeuvre. And why subjunctive? Because it's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical situation of an invitation. Sí, Nora.
I had a question too.
Sí.
Thinking back on the pronouns, I thought she said a few lines back something about invitar la. And I was expecting that to be invitar le.
Buena pregunta. Good
Go back
question.
and review that one. She went fast, but
Invitar is an important verb to know. I'm going to seg to something else. Whoop. I'm going to seg to something else.
And you can pause the video if you want to write them down.
Whoop, momentito. How do you know if a verb takes les, singular or plural, or lo, la, los, las? This is our challenge.
yes, it is.
This is our challenge. It is right that you think, whoa, wait a minute. Why wasn't that a le? They invite you. Shouldn't that be a les? They invite you guys, or they invite you le, or they invite her. Shouldn't that be a le? Because it's a person. Well, here's where it's really key that we know what the heck is the action of that verb. What is that action? Verbs are action words. Because the essence of that action tells you if it's going to use a direct object or an indirect object. Ooh. Give. You give something, direct object, to somebody. It uses both. Deliver, entregar is like deliver, hand over. You deliver a thing to somebody. You hand in your term paper to the teacher. You hand in your payment to the electric company. Yeah, it takes both direct and indirect. Pedir, you ask for something from somebody. You ask the waiter to bring you the bill. Yeah. You ask your spouse to do you a favor. These kind of verbs that you see on the screen use both direct and indirect. A human being receives that direct object, right? You ask the waiter for that bill. You hand your check over to the people at the electric company. The electric company people, the little clerks, they get that check, right? You give the car keys to your kid. You don't give away your kid. You're giving the car keys to your kid. Okay? So the kid is an indirect object. The kid gets the keys. Mommy or daddy gives the keys to the kid. The indirect object always gets the direct object.
And
But
that's what
wait,
the
invitar,
Yeah.
invitar only takes a direct object.
Oh,
Invitar.
Do I invite a thing? No, you always invite a person.
so
Even
the
though,
invitar is the
even
verb.
though that's a human being, here's the important thing. Even though that's a human being, that verb invite only takes a direct object.
Ah, verb invite.
What's another verb that does something like invitar? So with invitar, I'm going to use lo, la, los, las. Invite him is lo invito. I'm inviting him. I'm inviting her is la invito. Invitar, even though it's talking about a human being, that human being is not an indirect object. I invite to him. Do you ever say that? I invite to him? No, you don't. Yeah. You're calling your kids on the phone. I call to her. No. Llamar is like invitar. Llamar takes a direct object. Oh, the verb ver, to see, takes a direct object. Oh, shoot. So knowing what that action is part of the key to knowing, does that only take a direct object, or does it take a direct and an indirect? That's part of our problem. So when you go back to that idea of invite, Nora, I can only invite a person.
Okay.
Okay. Direct objects can be people. They are often things. Yeah. Some verbs only will take a direct object. Boom, end of story. I see him, I see it. I can see items, I can see people, right? I'm going to call a human being. You don't call your desk. You don't call. You might call an office, but you're really calling people in the office, right? Yeah. We happen to call people. So some direct objects are often things, objects, but they can be people. Indirect objects, the vast majority of the time, indirect objects are people. But that person gets something. Yeah. You tell a joke, a something, to somebody. And there is the conundrum, the problem we have with direct and indirect, right? La invito means I'm inviting her. Lo invito means I'm inviting him, right? But if I give something to him, he's getting an object, and that he's getting a direct object. A person is getting the direct object. They're on the receiving end of that activity. And that is our English problem. English does not distinguish him and her between indirect and direct. We use the same word. I'll call him, that's direct. You don't think about that. But I'll give him my number. The thing I'm giving is my number. I'm giving it to him. I still say him. I'll give him my number. The him is indirect. I'll call him. The him is direct. You don't have to worry. It's always him. It's always her. You don't have to think about it. But in Spanish, sadly, we have to think about it. So some people suggest it does you no good to go through this whole grammar conundrum. Just get used to which verbs take indirect and which take direct. Well, I can't tell you what's the right method for you, but do know that some verbs like ver will only take a direct object, right?
Ver.
Some verbs like mirar will only take a direct object. Some verbs like llamar are just going to take. Now, technically, they could take an indirect, but the percentage of when you're going to use that is so tiny, tiny, tiny. You're seldom going to encounter that. Okay, so let's move on and see how they're using these.
Cuando no llevamos nada, decimos
When we bring
que
nothing,
llegamos con las manos vacías.
when we bring nothing, we say you arrive with your hands empty.
Ir a un lugar sin llevar nada es llegar con las manos vacías. Llegar con las manos vacías es un poco grosero. Obviamente,
Yeah, it's a little bit rude to come with nothing.
cuando ya estás en mucha confianza y vas seguido a una casa, pues no todas las veces llegas con algo. Pero cuando es una invitación formal a una cena,
Oh, yeah. If you're just stopping by, don't always think you have to bring something to your hostess. But if it's a formal invitation, that's when you want to bring something.
a conocer un
A dinner,
a una
coming over to see somebody's home for the first
reunión más
time.
especial,
Oh, a meeting that's
llegas
special, a
con
get together
un
that's
detalle.
special.
No llegas con las manos vacías.
You don't come empty-handed when it's a set meeting, a special event, yeah, a dinner, something formal.
Me encanta.
Question?
Sí.
Back whenever she used confianza, I didn't quite catch.
Confianza can be used in a few ways, but confianza, I know it looks like confidence, a trusted situation, a close relationship. Algo de confianza is like a close relationship, a close and trusting relationship.
Ven, pasa.
And here's an imperative. Pasa, come on in. Ven means come, and pasa, come on in. Yeah, that is always, pasa is always the term they use when you step through the doorway. Yeah.
Con permiso. Sí, sigue.
And con permiso is the proper way to respond to that. May I? Con permiso is just may I?
Mi casa es tu casa.
Yeah, my house is your house. You guys all know that.
Me quito los zapatos.
Me quito los zapatos. Should I do this? Should I take off my shoes? Because some people are particular, they want shoes taken off in the entrance.
No te los quites.
No te los quites. No. Don't take them off. No te los quites. No te los quites. No te los quites. She's giving a command. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't bother. No te los quites. Don't take them off. And the los is talking about what?
Shoes.
shoes, zapatos. Yeah. So she doesn't want to repeat zapatos, 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 zapatos. We just want to let that little word los stand in.
No es necesario, no pasa nada si te
Not
los dejas.
necessary.
Lo que pasa es que
No pasa nada. Don't worry.
yo ya me acostumbré a andar con chanclas en la casa.
I usually walk around with sandals. Chanclas are just a different word for sandalias. In Latin America, they like the word chanclas for flip-flops or sandals.
Cómoda, como tú quieras.
Siéntate cómoda. Yeah, just
Mejor me los quito. Estaba lloviendo afuera y no te quiero ensuciar la casa.
no te quiero ensuciar. No te quiero ensuciar la casa. No te quiero ensuciar. Just no quiero ensuciar is I don't want to dirty up. I don't want to mess up. But I don't want to do this to you. And that's why the te is in there. No te quiero ensuciar. I don't want to mess up the house for you. Indirecto. Indirect.
Pues déjalos ahí, al lado de los negros.
Leave them there. Leave them. Déjalos. And now she's saying a command. Déjalos. Leave them. And los, again, is talking about zapatos. It's a direct object. You're leaving an object somewhere.
Cuando vas a entrar a un lugar que le pertenece a alguien, como su casa,
when you're going to enter a place that belongs to somebody,
o
like
su
their house
oficina,
or
lo
their
correcto es
office,
esperar a que te den permiso para
the polite thing is to wait for them to wait that they give you permission. Esperar a que te den permiso. Waiting that they give you the okay. They give you permission.
Para seguir ese permiso son las expresiones como pasa o pase, si se ustean.
And pasa is just the familiar, come on in, and pase is the formal, usted mode, come in. Commands are different depending on the you form that you choose to use, right? Pasa is the familiar, friendly. Pase is the formal. Come on in.
Sigue o siga.
And just means continue. Also, it's another thing that might be said to invite somebody to keep coming in, right? Seguir is continue, to follow, to keep on. So that means, yeah, sure, come on in. Sigue or siga.
También las personas antes de entrar dicen con permiso y el anfitrión les dice claro, sigue, claro, pasa. Ahora, una expresión
And
que
the con permiso is just saying, may I.
Seguramente ya conoces y que es muy popular es mi casa es tu casa. Esta expresión busca hacer sentir bienvenidos a los invitados a tu casa. Otras versiones que puedes escuchar es sigue, siéntete como en tu casa o estás en tu casa.
Siéntete como en tu casa. Feel as if you're at home. Make yourself at home, right? Estás en tu casa, you're at your home. So these are just different ways of people telling you, make yourself comfortable.
Ponte cómodo, estás en tu casa. Sigue, siéntete como en tu casa. ¿Dónde me puedo sentar?
¿Dónde me puedo sentar? Where can I sit down? And notice this is
casa. ¿Dónde
me puedo sentar? Where may I sit down? There are two places I could put the me here. Me puedo sentar or puedo sentarme. So often we do tend to put the me puedo sentar in front of the first conjugated verb, but because I've got two verbs working here, puedo sentar, an infinitive, you could say puedo sentarme. You have a choice when you've got a two verb combo. Para que sepan, just so you know.
¿Puedo sentar? Pues siéntate donde quieras, en el sofá.
Sit down wherever you like.
En la silla de la barra, en el balcón.
At the counter.
Donde tú quieras.
On the balcony. Cómoda. Yeah, ponte cómoda. Make yourself comfortable.
No te dé pena que estás en tu casa. Ven, más bien dime, ¿qué te ofrezco para comer? No.
What should I offer you to eat, right?
No, de comer nada. Almorcé hace poco.
I ate lunch a while back, so nothing to eat.
De tomar, te ofrezco vino.
How about something to drink? I can offer you, te ofrezco, I can offer you wine,
O café,
coffee,
limonada.
lemonade.
Bueno, te recibo un café.
Te recibo un café. I'll take a coffee. Te recibo. I receive from you. I'll take a coffee. Thanks.
Gracias. Perfecto. ¿Cómo te gusta el café?
How do you like your
Cargado,
coffee?
pero por favor no le pongas azúcar. Hazme un favor, pásame el platico que tienes ahí al frente. Ya te lo paso. Cuando el anfitrión o la anfitriona es muy insistente con atenderte,
When the host is very insistent
con ofrecerte
on waiting on you,
algo, te
giving you
recomiendo que
something.
aceptes así sea un vaso de agua, ¿sabes? Como
take something. Don't insist like, no, nothing at all. Nothing. Take something. Glass of water. How bad can that be? Yeah. If you really want nothing, okay, but accept a glass of water because you'll make your host feel like they're being welcoming. Otherwise, you make them feel like I haven't done a thing. Okay, it's just a
te
manners thing.
ofrecieron cena, te ofrecieron galletas, te ofrecieron vino. Ya dijiste muchas veces no. Di al menos como, bueno, un vasito de agua, por favor.
Yeah, a little glass of water. So take something.
De verdad está muy bonita tu casa.
Wow,
Ay,
your house is
muchas
cute.
gracias.
Pregunta,
es que-
pregunta. On just a little bit back when she says de verdad estás, I should know this questions, but it's shouldn't it's estás from the estar verb. Wouldn't that be
Vino. Ya
es?
dijiste muchas veces no. Di al menos como, bueno, un vasito de agua, por favor.
Maybe I'm
De verdad está
Shouldn't that be es muy bonita tu casa?
yeah, see.
Buena pregunta. Here's one of those little things. Está muy bonita tu casa is an evaluation. Not for a fact, your house is very pretty, but your house looks so cute. Está just makes it looks instead of it is for a fact.
Okay.
It's a nuance.
Okay.
Okay. Your husband looks at you and says, "Estás muy bonita." He says, "You look so nice today. You look so nice." It's something kind of special.
But isn't the ser, doesn't that do the description?
Isn't ser for descriptions? Yes, it is. But this
Okay.
is an evaluation.
Okay.
It's
okay.
talking about how it looks. If somebody uses that to talk about food, they're saying, "Oh, this tastes so good." Not this food is so good. This tastes so great. It smells so yummy. You're putting an evaluation on it. You're saying it's special.
Okay. Thank you.
Plugging in estar, where normally, you're right, normally, shouldn't that be ser? It's a description of a character. You're evaluating it to be usual. Of course, it could also be like bottom end. But in this case, it's your house looks so nice.
muy bonita tu casa. Ay, muchas gracias. La verdad es que la he armado con mucho amor.
Well, I've set it up. I set it up with a lot of care.
Pero eso sí, no te fijes en el desorden porque
Don't look at the mess. El desorden is the mess. No te fijas. Don't notice the mess. Don't pay attention to the mess.
no he tenido tiempo de organizarla como quiero.
I didn't really have time to fix it up like I would like.
Cuando visites a alguien, fíjate en qué cosas lindas hay para que la
Look at the nice things around their house, right? To make that person feel
resaltes y
good.
las elogies. María, muchas gracias por tu hospitalidad. Te felicito porque tu casa está preciosa. Y también muchísimas gracias por el café. Estaba muy rico. Moni, eres bienvenida cuando quieras y muchas gracias a ti por la visita y por estas orquídeas.
And here they're just trading compliments, right? Yeah. And notice it wasn't el café es rico, está rico. Wow, the coffee really tasted great. That's all. They're just exchanging
Tan
niceties.
divinas. Me encantaron. Ya que vimos la conversación, ahora quiero que revisemos algunas de las expresiones de
So here
cortesía.
she's just
Recuerden que
yeah,
nosotros podemos
giving us the
tutear
courtesy
o
expressions.
ustear o ustedear, como
So
también le dicen
whether
a las
you,
personas. Y eso puede cambiar.
yeah, whether you use a tú format to talk to somebody or an usted depends on how well you know that person, and that's all there is to it. Okay, so we probably don't need to worry too much about that.
Dependiendo de la relación que tengamos. Tutear es más íntimo, ustear o ustedear,
So,
como
more
le dicen otras
intimate,
personas,
intimate is
es un poquito
tutear,
más
using a to
formal.
verb form.
Entonces, cuando queremos que alguien pase o entre o darle permiso, le decimos sigue o sigue, pasa.
So here she's just getting into the different forms of commands, and we're not focusing on commands today. So I think we're actually going to stop there, right? Because the dialogue part of it is really pretty much over. She's focusing on the command part of it. See, bien? So let's go back. What really is essential is we want to focus a little bit on pronouns, because people really in English have trouble with pronouns. Certain kinds of verbs might take both a direct and an indirect object. So it's helpful for us to know what are the kinds of verbs where I may hear these le and les words inserted. You know, mete and nos are no problem. But the le and les, right? And we'll see why these take two, both a direct and indirect object. You offer something to somebody, right? There's always a person on the receiving end, but there's also an object, a thing that that person takes possession of. And that's why they use two object pronouns. You show a thing to somebody. You respond something, an affirmative or a negative, to somebody, right? You explain something to somebody. Recoger, we're going to leave off the list for now, but you serve something to somebody. You advise somebody about something, yeah? You tell something to somebody. You give as a gift. Well, the gift is the thing you give, but you give it to a person, right? You ask somebody for something. And we talked about these earlier. These verbs, and you know, you may want to take just a few off these lists. I'll point out which few might be good for you to really get used to as things that will be chunks. They will use a le or a les frequently. Dar, decir, pedir, prestar, yeah? Enviar or mandar, servir. Get used to some of the words, maybe half of them on this list. They are words that trigger an IOP, meaning indirect object pronoun. A human being is on the receiving end of these actions, and they also get a thing. The thing may be abstract, like a joke. The thing can be abstract, like information, yeah? Or the thing might be an actual physical item, yeah? It might be an object. It might be a thing you actually hand over. So, certain kinds of actions might have both an indirect and a direct object. Some actions really only get a direct object. You see a show, yeah? You see a person, you see a car. You call your kids. Only direct. So that's where our issue is. See, bien? You have video on indirect and direct objects. So let's take a look at these. Oh, wow. We're getting close to time. I did not budget enough time. Well, okay. Live and learn. Here we go. Let's take a look. I want us to try a few of these. We're getting pretty close to our time. We're going to have to carry this over to next session, but that's okay too. Así es. So it is. Object pronouns have a job. They're usually there for shortening communication. They're usually for there to stand in for a thing or a person, right? So often our key is for knowing if that verb action, does it take both in a direct or an indirect? Does it take only one, only the other? Depends on what you want to communicate, right? I'm calling him only takes a direct object, lo llamo. I'll give him a tip, takes direct and indirect. I'm giving something, I might be giving keys, I give a tip, I give my card, I'm giving something. But that person, that him, now that him word is a le. Le doy una propina. Un momento. I got separated, I don't know how. Le doy una propina, right? And the thing they emphasized in your other little grammar video was that often we have a clarifying phrase. So the him, le doy una propina al mesero. You might have this clarifying phrase as well. And isn't that repetitive? Isn't that redundant? Don't I already have a le? Why do I need that clarifying phrase? Well, you need the clarifying phrase because le doesn't tell you female or male, or usted, formal you, it doesn't tell you. So sometimes we need, because this word le is so fuzzy and can pertain to so many people, we often need that clarifying phrase. That's why that happens.
Marilyn, in that example, does it work without the le? Like just I'm giving
buena pregunta. Good question, Mark. Can't I just take this out? Isn't that enough? Doy una propina al mesero. Well, it is kind of enough. Would somebody understand you? Yes, they would understand you. But would it sound a little weird? Yes, it would sound a little weird. It would sound a little off. Would they get the core meaning of your sentence? Yes, they would get it. But it would sound a little odd because that little le pronoun, it's just what they expect to hear.
I'm just thinking if I were ever in some kind of little conversation like that, everything else would sound pretty odd also.
Well, yeah. So I know it sounds, it's like, well, it sounds it sounds a little off. You will hardly ever hear a verb like dar without a little pronoun like that. Because everybody knows you're giving it to somebody. Yeah, that's it. So let's take a look at some examples, and we'll only get through. I want to do a few of these, and perdón, I'm sorry we didn't get through enough of these. I didn't budget enough time, but pero, let's take a look at some of these examples. And I'm picking some verbs. I'm giving some examples of verbs that will work here. If I'm talking about this gal talking to this gal, I might take either one of these two verbs. But, you know, probably it's this one. Because this is between, yeah, and aside, right? How would you say she tells her? She's telling her a joke. Oh, she's telling her gossip. We're going to include the idea of chisme, gossip. She tells her some gossip.
Le cuenta el chisme. I don't know if it's L
El
or la.
chisme, sí.
El chisme a ella.
Le cuenta el chisme, and you can add a ella. From that visual, it's obvious. Here's the thing. When you've got a visual, it might be obvious. Es obvio. Aquí es obvio. Le cuente el chisme is probably enough because you see that. Yeah. You're not just hearing about it. You actually see what's happening. So a ella is probably left off, or a su amiga is probably left off. See? Bien? So that clarifying phrase really is highly dependent on how much is understood. If you've got a direct line of sight, it might be understood. But if you're just talking to somebody on the phone, they might not be seeing that. So might not be understood. Okay, decir. We want to say the mom is telling her something. La mamá.
Ladies, oh, la mamá.
Tells her. We need to change this to dice, right?
Mm-hmm.
La mamá.
Ladies.
Oh,
Le dice.
Mm-hmm.
La mamá, la mamá le dice, la mamá le dice que no. Her mom tells her no. La mamá le dice que no. You can add a su hija. Yeah. Or maybe it's her niece, a su sobrina. Right? She's not old enough for that to be a grandkid, but you get the picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
La mamá le dice que no. Her mom tells her no. What's the thing she's actually saying? No. That's a direct object, even though it's an abstract thing.
oh,
Yeah. Tells her not to be mean, tells her not to hoot, tells her not to talk. Yeah, it's some abstract thing. La mamá le dice que no, but the le dice, and you know what? You'll never hear a native speaker say it as la mamá dice que no a su hija. You'll never hear it well. You'll almost never hear it. It's always going to be le dice. Always. Decir is just so pervasive. You'll almost never hear it as just dice. It'll be le dice, tells her, or les dice, or me dice, or nos dice. It's going to be something in front of that dice, but that's all indirect. The thing coming out of your mouth is not a human being. It's something abstract. Yeah? See? And if we're in show and tell mode, mostrar is to show. It's a UE stem change. It just is. So, see? El niño muestra. Oh, he's got an umbrella. Show and tell. Kindergarten, what do you want? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he shows them. ¿Cómo se dice? He shows them.
les.
Les.
Les muestra. Les muestra su paraguas. He shows them his umbrella because it's kindergarten. What do you want? A robot? No, come on. Yeah, it's easy stuff. It's kindergarten. Yeah.
And where does the clarifying phrase go? At the very end?
Where does it go? It's always going to hang off the edge.
A las clase or whatever. A la clase.
A los estudiantes, and this might be a los estudiantes, sus compañeros, his classmates, sí.
Okay.
A los demás, to everybody else. A todos, to everybody.
Okay.
Right? So if you get a clarifying phrase, here's where it's going to hang off, the end, right there. But you'll almost hear this almost always paired off with a meternos a leer a les. Yeah, see? Bien?
Mhm.
Okay, and I'm going overtime now, so I'm going to stop it here. Perdón, wow, a bit more off than I could chew here, but we're gonna keep going with these next week. Yeah, see, and I've got some suggestion verbs there to get you started so that you know we're talking about writing something, bringing something, giving a gift, giving an item. It's not a gift. We're just giving something, right? And they have no word for borrow. No word for borrow exists. So you have to lend an item to somebody. The focus is on the person who's giving something away as a loaner. Yeah. So they only have prestar to loan out, right? Preguntar to ask a question, right? Explicar to explain, and aconsejar, aconsejar to advise, to give advice, right? Bien, mandar, you send an item. Recomendar, you recommend something. And we've got a little thing about reviews here. Preguntar, you ask about something. You're not asking for something. You're asking about something. You're asking a question. Yeah. And servir, to serve things. So come prepared to use some of those pronouns next week. See? Bien? Todo bien? We didn't get to our little story thing, so we're going to open with that next week, our little love language thing. I am sorry we did not get to everything, but we had a lot of good questions and they were good questions. So, you know, no es nada. It's nothing. It's okay. So we'll open with that next week and we'll do our little examples with our pronouns next week. ¿Está bien? Good.
Está bien.
I will give you
Gracias.
a little listening video so you've got something new to listen to besides that love language thing, but it's going to be a super easy little thing, right? It won't be a heavy duty grammar. It'll be a little easy story. You just sit back and enjoy this story. See? Bien?
Bien.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Fantástico. Entonces, sí, eso es todo. And I'm sorry I went over, pero así es. So it is. Okay. Sí.
No te
Bueno, espero que la pasen bien. I hope you have a good time the rest of the week.